But there's an obvious difference between D.C. and any other city in America. You know, a few months ago, I was in Union Station and saw a body hit the floor at the bottom of the escalator in Union Station because there was a murder right in front of me, up on the second floor. I was going to get a tie, and I heard the shots and saw the body hit the floor. So I've been listening all day long to people trying to make some argument that Washington, D.C. is a safe place. It's not a safe place, and we can argue about statistics and numbers. There's a police commander right now on suspension because there's some allegation that the statistics have been altered. But we can argue about that all day long. Nobody in their right mind who lives there or visits there on a regular basis would tell you that Washington, D.C. is safe, and everybody who goes there knows it. What the president is responding to today is, what can I do today? D.C. is the only city I really have control of, so I'm going to try to give them some support. He's getting a note of confidence from the D.C. Police Union. I suspect if they did things in other cities, other police unions in those cities would also offer some support. And so what I would simply say is that all you can do is hit the next shot. And the next shot right now, I think for a lot of Americans, is what can be done today to reduce violent crime and to make me feel safer in my neighborhood. I think he's going to get a lot of political support for the idea that the federal government's getting a little more muscular when it comes to cracking down on violent crime.
So, Scott, I mean, how does this end? I mean, is Trump basically signaling before he even gets to the negotiating table that he's willing to more or less give Putin what he's asking for?
No, I don't think so. I think he's saying what's realistic, which is that this only ends with a negotiated settlement. Both parties are going to have to go home and feel like they got out of this with something that looks like a victory. I don't think there's ever going to be a scenario where Putin goes back to Moscow and takes a knee and waves a white flag, and you certainly don't want that for Zelensky because the Ukrainians are the victims here. They're the ones who've been invaded. And so, but the reality is, you know, something's going to have to happen on the edges, and if you want it to end. And I think there's new public opinion polling in Ukraine that indicates that people there are very fatigued by this war. They're certainly hoping for it to end sooner rather than later. The head of the NATO Secretary General is acknowledging publicly that, yes, there's going to have to be some concessions here to get the war to end. The president has solved like 7 conflicts this year. I'm willing to give him some latitude to talk to Vladimir Putin and break the deadlock and try to move us toward a place where the killing comes to an end, because I think that's what we should all be praying for.
He actually hasn't solved 7 conflicts. There's been a lot of talk about that.
What reality do you live in? He's literally got these guys in the White House where they're signing documents and shaking hands. Acknowledge the man is solving peace.
India questioned about whether that was an actual
deal. It happens on almost a weekly basis. Just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it.
And I will also acknowledge that Donald Trump seems to have an affinity for Vladimir Putin in a way. No, you're not going to get away with calling me a liar. I know that's like the line you like to throw out, but I'm not lying.
You're lying.
Nobody's lying about anything.
Sure you are.
You can ask the countries who were involved in this.
Anyway, whatever you say.
So Donald Trump's affinity for Vladimir Putin versus the way he treats Zelensky, who's the one.
Did he show affinity to them when he just arranged for the arms to NATO? I'm just sorry, Abby. We're saying things that do not exist in reality. He just got NATO to do hundreds of millions of dollars of lethal weapons to Ukraine. What affinity to Russia is that?
It's crazy. Let me just let her finish so I can even understand what point she's trying to make. Let me let her finish the point.